know what? I think I need to be in here somewhere.
Okay.
I just don't want to be on camera. This is how I get on Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this needs to be turned on.
Oh, well, you can turn it off.
I could just move.
No, no, that camera up there will.
Well, let me get my thing. All right, I'll just not do it. Oh. I'm still in. I need this agenda packet. Okay.
Okay. I just want to share my screen on this budget, but I think if I want the budget to. Oh, the issue with running it the way we are.
See what okay, I'm having trouble hearing you with that mask on, really. There were people I didn't know.
Okay.
All right.
So I logged in the way the instructions said it. We did. We are started. We did. Minute I logged in. I will.
Must have missed that one. Had one on Saturday though.
I was like, oh my God, what's the message? Like,
Yeah.
MJ, I'm gonna send it after so I can write something good because I need to start the meeting. Because I want to write a really nice thing. Okay. I'm gonna call this meeting to order. Wait. Okay. All right. Okay. Nona cannot make it. Neither could be. But we have a quorum. Because the meeting is 5 members. Town council liaison. Okay. Yeah. Is there anyone that would like to have an oral communication for items not on the agenda?
Yeah, I do. I know we have the fair later on the agenda, but I just wanted to thank Jennifer because she had a milestone birthday and she put off celebrating it because of the fair and, you know, it takes some effort. So, but so to help Jennifer celebrate her birthday,
May 25th,
Yeah, are you of legal age now?
I can
Anyone?
finally drink. Oh, no. Oh, and you.
Oh, you hit
Oh,
those.
my
You did a good job. My goodness.
The only problem is you have to. I will. Oh, thank you so much. I'm gonna open Claire. Thank you. That's so sweet. You've now officially done more than my husband has done for my birthday. But I do get to assist the Disney World. So thank you. You guys are, and we'll talk about the Wildfire fair later and I'll go. Okay. Would anyone else like to have any oral communications that are not on the agenda? Hands raised. Okay, so the fire marshal is not going to be able to be here. His daughter is.
Get the
minutes,
approval of
we
minutes.
have to approve the minutes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I move approval of the minutes of March 23.
A second? Show of hands. And I would like to make a note that the recording was lost. And MJ Lee, who always creates fantastic minutes, had to go back and try to recreate action minutes into real detailed summary minutes. And it was very difficult.
Thank you,
So
MJ.
thank you, because it was a really important meeting. Okay. Next is the fire marshal update. John couldn't be here. 'cause of- Oh.
Where'd she
somebody
go?
had their hand-
She just came on screen, but.
Yeah,
I
but she
don't-
didn't have. her
Okay,
hand.
sorry.
Because his daughter's a senior and they're having senior night and
Oh.
the parents were invited. And he didn't have, I know, and he didn't have any other staff available probably because they're all resting from the wildfire. Preparedness, yeah. So we won't have any updates. Unless Craig, you know something you want to update us on just related to.
You want to talk to them? I know.
Yeah, I was at the meeting too, but yeah.
Always do what MJ says.
Sounds like you probably have a better update than I did if you went to it.
And we're gonna talk about it. at
Yeah,
home,
great.
pardon me.
So yeah, I think that's the only other thing I know relative to fire marshal.
We're gonna talk about that. Okay. So next is our discussion of a new meeting time. We did a doodle poll. And 4 PM on the third Wednesday of every month works for all the members as well as Craig, as well as Dawn. So I have, does anyone like to make a motion to change our meeting time to the third Wednesday of every month? at 4
So
p.m.?
moved.
Second, let's take a vote. Unanimous. We are now going to meet at 4 PM on the third Wednesday of every month, and
Excellent.
I will send that out
Yeah.
to whoever I can to put that on the town council agenda.
So our next meeting is Wednesday, May 17th at 4.
Right, and the one after that would be June 21st, and the one after that would be July 19th. Okay. So.
Yep.
Yeah, well, and she was, I talked to Selena, and she actually was gonna try to change that anyways, but I'm sorry, you did say you were good with that time. And we can always talk after the meetings or before the meetings and you'll be well informed. And Greg, I am sorry, because you did approve that meeting time, 'cause- yeah, okay. Good, okay, because we would all be very disappointed if we could not start meeting at 4. Okay, so next up is a discussion on the town council priorities, and that is Fred's presentation. Well, what are the town council priorities? I haven't gotten any handout on it. At the chairs meeting, they said that at the same meeting, they wanted the liaisons to present the town. Would you like to defer this till next month? Next month, we're just gonna start chatting about communications and our focus for the next year. So maybe you could at least send me something in the next month to say what the priorities are and how we can best serve the town council, or. No. Can you think of anything that pertains to this committee that you want us to keep in mind as we discuss our priorities, or? No, I sent it to MJ. I'm not hooked up. Are you
What?
hooked up? Is your computer hooked up? to
Yeah,
Zoom?
yeah.
Can you put it up on screen if you send to the priorities?
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, you know what would be better, Craig, is since you're not going to present, why don't I just include that in next month's packet? And that way that will go hand in hand with discussing what our focus is going to be. You want to do that? Let's do that. Yeah, I'll send it out in the agenda packet. That'll even be better, and that I thought you had priorities for us. I misunderstood. And that is
Okay.
perfect for next week,
Next month, you mean?
next month.
Well,
We're right there with assessment and mitigation of hazard and risk, and, okay.
well, I have it on the screen if you want.
So,
Actually, don't see any wildfire stuff in there.
If we really could do this next month, I'd feel better about it because I've never seen this and would really like to have an opportunity to read through it.
yeah, why don't we do that? This should be, I thought it was going to be a presentation, and this document should really be in the packet so that we can read through it. Okay? You agree, MJ, or do you see? Because I do see community preparedness and awareness, and I see mitigation of hazard and risk.
Hmm.
And you want us to suggest projects. Also, community engagement and communications. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're going to do next, and this is going to be a multi-month agenda item, but communication. And that involves not just us, but how we communicate in step with EPC and conservation and how we can, and you know, how we can effectively communicate and brainstorming some projects that we can do in the community. And I think it would be very good for the town council to know what we're thinking and to tell us what they're thinking so that we can kind of together plan long-term. Yeah, okay. Mm. Right. We're thinking exactly alike. We're gonna talk, are you gonna stay for the whole meeting? We're gonna talk about that under home hardening and vegetation, but I would like to say if there is anything we can do for the town council, if there, I mean, anything you can think of, any way that we can help you, let us know. And I did have a question that, you know, there was at least one committee that Jeremy used to go to that, and it's not a board meeting, because I've been to all the board meetings, the fire district board minutes, and he would go to a meeting and he would come back and tell me information about what CPAW was doing. He would tell me about county planning. And so I was kept aware of that. And is anyone going to that meeting? And is that something, you know, you could do, you know, temporarily until we have a town manager? Is that something that Howard could do and one of us could go with him? Yeah. Yeah, or either that or maybe Corey's going to it. I don't know. And I just don't know. Yeah. I will try to dig through my notes. And I have a way to find out. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yes, I will find out. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to close that item unless is there any discussion? Is there any discussion from the committee?
No, we already heard from me.
Is there anybody in of the attendees that have anything, any questions, any comments on this discussion? No hands raised. Okay. So let's move on to the proposal for clarifying committee operations. Okay. So, I want you to interrupt me anytime you want to ask questions.
I will.
Because this is going to be kind of a, there's a lot of information here and it's going to be a train of thought. So several months ago, the chairs of all the committees met to discuss the idea of simplifying the committee structure and control of hours. And as I start this conversation, I just want to emphasize that both Sarah and Fred stressed that we will not be changing our structure unless we vote to do it.
We have the committee.
We as a committee.
Okay.
So as we are really being asked to brainstorm and imagine how committees might work better. And I'm not going to read everything on the sheet because I know you guys have read it. We are going to go through detail the tables. But what prompted this was, of course, our committee's experience with Brown Act. And, and, there's a lot of things, it's not just, you know, the law, but there's a lot of things that are involved when you're a Brown Act committee you may not know. For example, obviously I have to submit the agenda like a week beforehand because it has to be approved by the town manager. This town secretary has to review it to make sure that it's created properly in accordance with the Brown Act. The titles, I have a whole document on the titles for agendas for Brown Act because they have to be clear and the members of the public have to really be able to understand what this meeting is going to entail. And then, of course, the members of the committee have to meet in person. I will say that right now in Sacramento, they're discussing the idea of maybe eliminating that or giving members the option of attending with Zoom and something in person. We have no idea what that's going to entail. And before Melissa left, she actually said the opposite could happen. They're discussing eliminating Zoom and hybrid meetings altogether. And at any time, if anyone wants to listen to our meetings, they may have to come in person. So, the Brown Act is determined in Sacramento and what that means. And of course, I think the biggest constraint for us is you can't get together. You can't meet together to discuss wildfire with more than a majority of the committee, or you have a quorum. And we have a 5-person committee. We're not the only one. So our subcommittees can be 2 people. And so it really restricts what we can do unless we're in this room. So the idea was to, and also there is an enormous amount of staff time that is required for a Brown Act meeting. So after our negative experience with the Brown Act, the town really started checking in with chairs and really making sure that they understood what the Brown Act requirements were. And it's required a lot of staff time, and a lot of the chairs are not particularly thrilled with it. So the idea is that if a committee became, if the town council created a subcommittee, let's just use us for example. Craig and Sarah create a subcommittee for wildfire preparedness. And we could be part of that subcommittee. We would no longer be Brown Act because we're a subcommittee of 2. No, they would commit, they would,
But I mean, 2 of our committee members.
no,
I want
the
you to-
whole committee would be under, so like a non-Brown Act committee would essentially be part of a town council subcommittee. We would no longer be Brown Act.
Okay.
And that's the idea. Yeah. Okay. But it's a committee under a subcommittee. Okay,
At that.
okay.
Okay, that's what I'm reading in the script.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Thank you for clear, because I never quite, that wasn't very clear. That is very clear now. Okay. So that's the idea. So the town council would create these subcommittees and then that subcommittee would appoint members.
Yeah, I got that much
Okay.
off the grid.
So they've asked us to fill in this table. And everything's on the table, so to speak, or off the table. We can suggest whatever we want. Does
So
that make
this is
sense?
their draft?
This is, there was an original draft, and this is draft after they talked to the chairs,
Okay.
and there probably will be more drafts. And so what will happen at the end of the day, hopefully, there will be a table that's created of 3 different kinds of committees. And then it'll come back to each committee and they can vote what they want to do. So the three different committees that at least right now they're talking about is a Brown Act committee, which is what we are, a non-Brown Act committee,
Which I
which
understand now.
would be very similar to our charter, but it would be, we would be appointed by this subcommittee of the town council. And then there's the idea of the group. And the best example I've heard of a group was when the ADU, the group of Portola Valley residents formed a little group to create a survey for ADUs.
Okay, in other words, not created by the council or a subcommittee. of the-
It's just a group of
Got
residents.
it, okay.
Right, okay. So, so that's what we're gonna start talking about. Member appointment. Currently, Brown Act committee, were appointed by all of the council members. They have to vote. Okay. A non-Brown Act committee would be just by the council subcommittee. And then a group is open membership. Go on the TV forum or say, you say, you want to be in this group. The meeting, and anytime you guys want to stop and discuss something, we can, or we can go through the whole table and then discuss it, because what they want at the end of the day is for us to make suggestions.
Yeah, I thought the table was pretty decent.
Okay.
It was pretty clear, excuse me.
Okay, clear, yeah. Meeting requirements for members, we have to meet in person. Our members at least have to be in person. Non-Brown Act committee, they say in person or hybrid. I added my notes, like, why would you? Yeah, you could even be all Zoom.
Mhm.
Why do you have to have a hybrid? Why does anyone even have to appear in the historic schoolhouse? It is not a Brown Act committee. Why do it? Why, and, you know, is it recorded? It has to be. It's not a Brown Act committee,
Ah, right, okay.
you know? So
You're asking those questions, so you
I'm
don't know
kind
the
of just
answer.
throwing up, no, I'm asking, you know, so at the end of this, we should kind of as a committee. say
Okay,
what we
well,
think.
I thought this whole thing was pretty clear once you helped me understand the Brown Act versus non-Brown Act. However, I am new enough to this committee that I don't feel like I have anything useful to add or question at this point, because I haven't seen it try to work.
Let me go through the whole table and then,
Oh, I was
Let's-
hoping you wouldn't do that.
no,
Yeah, I
no, no,
was
no,
hoping.
no. It's, this is important.
Well, what were those two questions that you had?
Okay,
Can it
I
be
had a
all
question,
Zoom?
and by the way, I gotta send this to Patty, so we're gonna have a whole document that I'm gonna create, so you don't have, you're gonna take minutes? Good, you can send me your minutes?
She takes great minutes.
Okay.
Sure. What was your
So my
second
question
thing?
was, why would there be a requirement, a meeting requirement for any of the members to meet in person? Because right now it's in person or hybrid.
Right,
Maybe it's all Zoom.
yeah, I got that one. What was
Okay.
the second one?
The same thing, do we need to record it? Why? Takes up staff time and, I mean, some committees may feel you need to record it. The chair of historic resources, I thought was, had the biggest, he said, like, why are we a Brown Act committee? Why, nobody cares what we do. Which I think is really funny. I think a lot of people care, but they may not want to watch the recording. The minutes might be fine. Does she need to make detailed minutes? I don't know. Do we need to make detailed minutes? If you're not a Brown Act committee, what do you have to do?
Yeah, so you don't know if they even have to have minutes?
Well, we're deciding.
No,
Yes,
No, I mean, if you're a non-Brown Act
but
committee.
we're deciding tonight what we think they should have to do. This isn't done. This was what was thrown to us as kind of a brainstorming, you know, get us thinking about this. And so we are going to tell them, if we become a non-Brown Act committee, what would we want? And my answer would be as little as possible.
Okay, let me, something you raised in the beginning, why would you want to say in person or hybrid? If you just say hybrid or not in person, eventually somebody is going to think that means you're not allowed to. So having an or choice
Yes.
makes a lot more sense to me. I don't want to see that
In
change.
person, comma, hybrid, or all online. 'Cause
Or a trip to
hybrid
Las
means-
Vegas,
Yeah,
who knows?
yeah, yeah. But there's no requirement. for you to do
Yeah,
it.
but that's the point. And if you only put one thing down, then somebody eventually is going to misunderstand it. So giving them
Yes.
their choice. Or you could put committee's choice. No, don't do that. Just the way it is fine.
And do you hear what we're saying?
Well, I'm confused because when I read this document, I thought this column that says non-Brown Act committee was explaining what that non-Brown Act committee, what their new process would be. And you're saying, oh no, we're deciding what the process would be.
This is the first round
Yeah, you're
They
right,
want
MJ. It's
us
just a
to
proposal.
provide input. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's, think of-
Okay, I didn't interpret this that way. So, all right, well, so then after I read this, I had a bunch of questions. Do you want to take those back to the committee of committees or what?
yeah, we're gonna have this discussion. I have to actually write up all of our input and send it to Patty Booth, who's kind of the secretary of this effort. And then there is a chairs meeting. There's 2 dates, one I can't make and one I can make. And I don't know whether we're gonna. Okay, I can make that good. Yeah, yeah. So let me, okay. MJ and Wanda, if we became a non-Brown Act committee, would you like the flexibility of being able to meet totally on Zoom? Or do you think that a non-Brown Act committee still should have some in-person requirements?
no, I vote for flexibility.
Right? I mean, if we're gonna be, I agree with Wanda. If we're gonna be a non-Brown Act, I want complete flexibility.
Mhm.
Do we think that all our meetings need to be recorded and put in YouTube?
Well, the advantage of recording them, the reason why because initially we weren't recording the wildfire meeting. But the reason why we did is because Jennifer Eustra, when she was the secretary, she wrote very detailed notes. And then people in, Portola Valley Land complained that the minutes were biased. And so that's why we decided to go to action minutes. And if people want to see the detail, they have to watch the recording.
And I think it makes sense, ultimately. But if your person rec, maybe minutes would be enough. Maybe you don't need to record. Or it may be you only are going to record the meeting where you're talking about pickleball courts, which is really interesting. You choose the meetings that you record. But I don't think, and for town staff, just the amount of time, part of this is to reduce town staff. If we're going to become a non-Brown Act, if a committee is going to become a non-Brown Act committee, it would be simpler if they had the choice of whether to record it and they could decide if they're gonna have a meeting.
What is it that takes staff time when it's recorded?
They have to set up the link.
Oh,
It does. It does
okay.
take staff.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It does take staff time.
Well, for the Wildfire Committee in particular, there are some things that are going to be happening that will impact people in this town.
Yeah.
And I think for our protection and theirs, our meeting should be recorded.
And we could choose that, but if your historical resources and you're going to be discussing, the archival process
Right,
of some
right.
particular thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That, I'm so, okay, that was not what I got out of the last meeting, but that's great. We can do that. Okay.
So I have a question for you. We are a Brown Act committee,
we
right?
are. Well,
So-
every committee in town. is a
Right.
Brown Act committee.
So are we thinking we want to become a non-Brown Act committee? Is that what this discussion is about?
No.
Okay, good.
I thought it is what.
No,
this
it is
is.
not. It is, no, it is not. It is one of the questions they asked. So the only other comment then, before we get to the other question, is on the agenda setting, there is an error in this table. In this table, they added this section for agenda setting. And it says under Brown Act Committee, yes, per Brown Act with review of council liaison and town manager. And actually, in the handbook right now, the town liaison doesn't review the agenda. Okay, so there's also going to be handbook changes. Okay, so that isn't, okay, so this is the new Brown Act that they're recommending. Okay. Yeah. Okay. 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 So I will say, yeah, I've heard the other chairs make that comment. They made the comment in the meeting. I've had items removed from my agenda from both the town manager and from members of the town council. And I will tell you that usually if one of them doesn't like something on your agenda, usually it's kind of, if the town council member doesn't like what's on your agenda, it's going to be removed. So I don't think we have to add that. I have
Understand what
had-
you're saying.
I have had situations, most of the time, it's a really good reason. Most of the time, because our agendas are looked at and sometimes there's something that's a timing issue. And it's just, we just need to put this off. As far as our committee, when we had a town manager, we worked very far in the future with our town manager. And in Jeremy's case, he knew what was coming. He knew what we were trying to accomplish. He knew, I actually would send him 6 months in advance what I was going to have on the agenda. He had things that he wanted to put on our agenda that I said no to. and it worked very well.
So what is it you're suggesting?
I think we should have one or the other. I just think having two people that, I mean, it is the same thing, believe me. If a town council person comes to the town manager and says, no, the town manager is going to read that item from your agenda. So it's just, if you're, in our committee, we're planning things many months down the road. And so. Well, and maybe it's because we had really good town liaisons. I never felt that we had 3 town council liaisons. And I never felt that any one of them I couldn't have gone to and said, hey, I mean, I certainly know I can come to you. And I never felt that if I had a real issue, I couldn't come to the town meeting. And, you know, maybe there should be a way to request a different town council liaison if the committee chairs. Yeah. Yeah. And, yeah. And maybe it's because I always knew we were appointed by the town council, and I always knew that when push came to shove, come to the town council and say, I need your help. So I never had any huge problems.
What does self-serve mean?
I
under the
don't know
law?
what self-serve means.
Right. Oh, that's what you meant. This, okay, posting it. Okay. That's. Right, right.
Mhm. I have one question and then we'll get to, we'll get to that. How are you, so right now with the structure, theoretically, you're supposed to funnel, every member of the committee goes through the chair if they're going to ask staff for resources. And that's one thing I have stressed to my members. You know, you can't just contact the staff. You have to let me know. I have to be copied because we don't want every member of every committee thinking that they have something that's really important and they're all emailing, you know, Carrie at the same time. So is that gonna be something that we would go through the town council through? I mean, who would be the gatekeeper? I mean, yeah, I don't know what the other committees do. Yeah. Okay. Well then,
Oh, then one thing under the, talking about pros, under non-Brown Act, one of the pros is hybrid meetings. What you really ought to say is choice of meeting or something
Yeah.
like that.
yeah. But I don't think that, I think he just wants us to concentrate about our committee. Okay.
Yeah.
So then let's just ask, do we think we would, well, a step in the right direction is not applicable. Are we open to changing to be a non-Brown Act body?
Well, before we talk about it, if we're open to it, I have some questions.
Okay.
I know the rules. So do we have to have minutes? Actually, my question about do we have to have minutes, I didn't know if we were non-Brown Act, if there's any legal requirement. We can do anything we want. Okay. Okay, so if you're keeping your list, I mean, I would like that on the list. Do we have to have minutes and agenda? Or, so I guess Craig wants us to just focus on our committee. right.
So, yeah. Well, no, I mean, I'll tell you right now, I would like to be able to not meet in person. I'm serious about this. I'd like us all to meet at my place with my great coffee machine. And, no, I'm serious. And I'd like us to just be able to get a full bunch of stuff done. But, you know, I'm not clear that our charter wouldn't have to change substantially if we were a non-Brown Act committee. I don't know how we could have input on safety elements if we are not having open communications. I don't know how we talk about public safety. I don't know how we discuss fire mitigation programs and possible funding. You know, if we change to be just a strictly educational committee where we are stressing educational messages on defensive space and home hardening. We're not, as we're going to talk about later, getting input on ordinances. We are not asking the fire district to meet with us to ask questions. We're not asking Stanford to come and ask questions. You know, I don't see how we do that if we're not a brown committee. And I really would like to not be a brown committee.
You,
I
you really like to
really,
be a non-brown act, but you don't really think we can.
I
do it.
don't think
That's-
we
I
can,
agree with
well,
that.
I think that the question is, do we want to change the committee enough in order to do that? How much do we want to be a non-brown committee?
Not enough. And not in my opinion.
Yeah. That's my personal opinion. This is my, but this is my opinion. I'm asking, how can we do that? I mean, Craig, you're not even supposed to be part of this conversation. Okay, this is our committee having.
That's not what the non-brown. So, always not part of this, I'm just trying to keep this sort of line. So that you get your input in line with the.
But Craig, you. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe it's my opinion.
That's very different than the thing you just presented.
No, that was a separate comment, but just even if we did, we keep the same structure we have now, but we do it all with Zoom. I could be chatting to somebody. I could have somebody next to me and people wouldn't be able to see it. There's going to be people in the public that are going to get very uncomfortable about that if we are talking about some of the things that our charter says we're supposed to talk about. If we come up with a fire mitigation proposal that we recommend to the town council, or we come up with some funding ideas, or we suggest some things about an ordinance that certain people don't like, they're going to say, well, wait a minute, did you all get together? I mean, we're not a Brown Act, so we could get together in my house and talk about it, and then even come here. And we've already made up our minds. We could be meeting, you know, and making up our minds on a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, these two people are some of my best friends. And when we get together, I mean, we don't talk about wildfire. So, because we're Brown Act. And so.
Stop saying that, Craig, because it's gonna cement in your brain. and That's all you're gonna think if you say.
I mean, that was just one piece earlier on in the conversation. I was
Yeah.
not, I mean. Yeah. We're a safety committee.
Yeah,
We're a
that's-
safety committee.
That's really a great point, is that if we're free to just talk about this stuff, the three of us go off in the corner somewhere and just talk about it, make decisions without any public, you know, observation, transparency or input, then are we doing the right thing? I don't know. Especially when it comes to all these ordinances, if the public wants us to have opinions and funnel those to the fire district, you know, shouldn't we do that as a Brown Act committee? Yeah, no, I think that's what Jennifer was trying to maintain, not that she wanted us to all meet in her kitchen.
I would like us to meet
Did
in
I
our
get it
kitchen,
right?
but
Did I get it right, Jen?
yes, I did.
So what is the product we're trying to come up with right now?
And I think that there was also a memo I didn't get, because at the meeting of the chairs, my understanding was they wanted us to fill out this table about, and not worry about whether or not we wanted to be a Brown Act committee. And what I heard from Craig today was, no, he wants us to fill out this table the way we want, and really determine what would fit for us. I know that that's two different discussions.
Yeah, it is.
Probably we need to be both, we need to know what we want for ourselves as a committee, and then we should also be forward thinking enough to figure out, well, what if I change committees?
Yeah, and what
And what if
happens
that
2 or 3 years
committee is-
from now if we're not on this committee, somebody else
Yeah,
is?
so I think it is good to look at it in the big picture. Yeah.
So we can start to define
And,
Do we have to do
Yeah.
this tonight? Do we have to decide all this tonight?
well, yeah, because we're gonna meet again, but the biggest problem I have with Brown Act committee is you lose a tremendous amount of creativity.
Yeah.
And we could do so much more if we were an educational committee and we were just focused on items, communications. We could get together, we could be so much more creative, we could pass emails back and forth.
Yeah, see, that's
That's
much more
the
appealing
one.
to me.
It is, it's very, very appealing. The problem is that's not what this committee unfortunately is. And I don't have any particular desire personally to make it like that, but this is going to be a vote. Eventually, they're going to come up with this chart, and they're going to form these 3 committees, and it'll come back to our committee. And at the chairs meeting, they did say, we could have the attorney, look at it to see how charters could be adjusted so that we could be a non-Brown Act committee. But for us, I'm concerned about future flexibility of things we might want to do that we're going to lose if we're not.
Well, so, we could discuss this stuff for hours.
Yeah, okay.
What do you want to take back to the committee of committees? Just a list of questions right now?
Well, I think Craig's point is, do we have questions about our committee?
Yeah, I have some questions that
Okay.
came up. So let me start with the easy one. So I already mentioned, do we have to have minutes or agendas? Do we have to have a quorum to meet, or that goes out the window too?
It goes out the window. No, it's not, you're not Brown Act.
What are you doing? You're talking about if we're a non-Brown Act committee? Is that what you- Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Do we can meet like just one of us? Right. Right. Right, I know, we did that.
that's part of what we're trying to decide. At least the some people, that's their problem. They can't do it. They don't have the flexibility to have something.
Right.
And then they can't leave. Because all these things. I totally hear you. I also have writing. There's some sort of verbiage that they're hearing. forum meetings. Those are the ones you discuss. And then if we want to get together and talk about, you know, this is, I don't know, but those are the things we can discuss.
You know, I had a lengthy conversation with Cara, my committee made me do it. There was issue that came up about a Firewise committee that was forming. And I said, well, we can only have 2 members there at a time. We can't have a quorum. And a variety of people said, no, that's not correct. And it turns out it was. And she was very clear on it because she said, even though, and actually the Woodside attorney had told Chip Swan, no, it was okay because it was a county meeting, or it was a WPB ready meeting, a district-wide meeting, and therefore it was okay. And she said, because of the items that are on our charter and the kind of things that we're discussing, Firewise might be relevant, and therefore it would be considered a quorum, and we were discussing something that was relevant to our committee. So I don't see how you can kind of switch on a light bulb and have some meetings that are Brown Act. And you know this because you're CPA and you deal with.
Oh, yeah,
so
but
much.
I don't know any of this.
But
I don't
you
want to know any of this Brown Act stuff.
But it's
Well, why don't you put that as one of the questions, whether or not application of forum can be flexible, like we could use it for a hearing, but not use it all the time. That's the question. Another question, let's see. I had a concern about the format of the minutes. I just, it actually takes me, even though the action minutes are, I try to get them as short as possible. It takes me several hours to write action minutes.
That's why they're so good.
Well, but I'm saying if someone said, oh, well, now you have to, all non-Brown Act committees are going to do, full minutes, I would just refuse to do it. But anyway, that was just an issue. Yeah, if the committee decided, that's fine. I just wanted to point out that even action minutes take me a long time. Let's see, actually, my number one thing on this thing, Brown Act versus non-Brown Act, was that, I was on the Wildfire committee when we got sued by Rusty Day, right? And so then we couldn't move for 2 months at least, because we couldn't have quorum because 2 people dropped off immediately. Person, then we think we were going to meet, and somebody then dropped himself off the committee. So it was quite terrible. And so I thought one of the reasons for going to a non-Brown Act committee was to give us committee members some protection from lawsuits by people like Rusty Day. Now, do we really get any kind of protection, or are we still subject to having our emails and our text messages turned over to the public?
What? I didn't hear what you said. Oh,
A question. This is a question. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's egregious. Yeah, no, I just was disappointed that this document kind of, hid the elephant in the room. I thought that was the elephant. That was the whole reason we started doing it.
but
So
I
was-
thought the purpose of this document, from what I'm hearing from Peg tonight, is to raise those questions.
Yeah.
So that it goes up to the, what
Yeah,
the
but I
committee of
mean,
committees.
That's a question everyone should have known. Okay, I'm sorry. I was wondering if the member handbook, and I haven't read it in a long time, so is it going to give more reasons on removing members or officers of committees, or has that changed, or is that going to change? Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, when this whole thing with Dale Fowl came up, I mean, he had written this egregious stuff, and the thing is, you know, they resigned him or whatever from our committee. But if you're writing stuff like that, should you be on any committee in the town? I think that's a question that, you know, the member handbook maybe should address. You know, if you fail
Like an
ethics
ethic?
or if you fail anything, if you turn around and sue the town, should you still be a committee member?
Maybe that's the person who should be.
Code of conduct. How about a code of conduct?
Yeah, code of
Don't you think
conduct.
code of conduct?
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, if it's not in the member handbook, obviously I should read it.
Are we
I
gonna-
have it here, actually. It's
No,
in my
don't tell
bag.
me. I don't know.
Jennifer, I have to ask you, are we gonna get done by 8:30?
Yes. Oh, we are.
Yeah, well, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess, you know, just going back to when I was on the recreation committee, really long time ago, it used to be that before you added anyone to a committee, you know, the person candidate came to a meeting and you met. And later on, someone in the background made the decision. I was just wondering if we're gonna, you know, I guess it migrated to where the town manager decided who was gonna be on the committee or put up the nominees to the town council or. No,
No.
no. No. Anyway,
you're
I
talking
I
about
just
member
had a
appointments?
question. I just was wondering about really having someone on it.
Because I certainly have never seen anything. I think it's the town council that appoints members. And it's very opaque.
That's what it says here.
What?
Says member appointments by council. I'm
Yeah,
looking at the
but
grid.
that's not what's in the current handbook. So
Oh.
it's something, and I have it somewhere, the handbook, I brought it, but the chair sometimes is given, you know, the opportunity to interview somebody. Certainly Michael interviewed me, but it's, those applications come in and then the town council decides. But, you know, to MJ's point, we're lucky because he's very good, you know, town council liaisons. And you know a lot about emergency preparedness. But, you know, you don't know who is going to be forming a subcommittee. And so now that's two town council people who will be, you know, how much influence will they have over changing the charter? How much influence will they have over the agenda? Is that going to be a problem? Do we personally, I mean, I think you guys are elected and I don't have a particular problem with that, but I do think the committee should know if it's going to be a subcommittee directed by those two council members and that they are going to direct that committee. And I don't have any inherent problem with it because you guys are the elected officials. And to some degree, that's your job to do it. But, okay.
The mayor and the mayor, the mayor being the person shows up, the committee members all talk to him. And then he often chair would think that it's not binding. Chair then takes that to the mayor. Goes from there. That's the
I think our committee might be a little different, given Okay,
That's
Yeah,
all of my questions.
okay, so you know what, let me write this up. And I can BCC you, and if you have any comments. you can let me know. But let me summarize what we've got. I think do we have an agreement that we think it's unlikely that we can be a non-Brownette committee? But
Yes.
we would, yeah, we think it's unlikely. I think what would have to happen is the town council would have to decide that they wanted to change our charter.
Yeah.
And that may be something the town council wants. They may want more of an educational committee and they, rather than a safety committee. And that would be certainly within their rights to do it. Yeah. Okay.
There's no decision to put anything in the council.
Yes.
Right.
So, I mean, there is. But so, and that's really why I think it's a great.
Yeah.
You know, but if you don't. That's the status quo.
I would love to be a non-Brownette committee, but,
Right.
yeah,
Because nothing else is important to me. We should apply the same kind of thing. We should say, look, the wildlife preparedness committee.
Yeah.
And this other committee really looks like a duck. And it should be down, they don't want to be down. They see like that and having one be around that is one. So coming up with a rationale to why.
Right. I will say that at the meeting, all the chairs kind of gave their opinion and all the safety committee all said that I think that they had their minds up, made up a little bit more than I did. I actually have been thinking about it. But they felt pretty strongly that they didn't see themselves changing. There were some committee chairs that were very eager and then some that said, we want to wait and see. We want to watch this happen and play out. Okay. So I will write up the comments and then BCC everybody and we cannot have a discussion on it, but if I've gotten something wrong, you can email me directly.
Right.
And
Thank
then,
you.
okay. Is there anything else anybody wants to say on this meeting? Well, about this subject?
No, no,
No.
no.
Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this discussion? Okay. So we have 20 minutes. We have the wildfire. We
there
are,
now.
and I'm going to make this very quick, this wildfire preparedness review, because I would like to say this next month when everybody's here, and I am going to have a report for you. And, but I want to say how many nice things have been said about our committee, and I will go through that next month when
Great.
Mona and Dee is here. But
Starting with the chair.
well, but I mean, everybody has been saying really nice things. I'll have the report in the agenda packet for
Great.
next. And I will be emailing you each section about, like MJ, I'm going to email you the section of the report about lectures so that you can comment. I'll be emailing the first section about hardening, where we discuss the logistics and things. So there's no Brownette violation. Okay, so other than that,
I think I will move on. Is there any comments from anyone on the committee about what I just, about this discussion? Nope. Anyone in the audience? Okay, we're on to. budget.
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
You could mention that the speaker lecture series is on the town YouTube channel. I'm gonna start writing tips about it, but that'll only come out. once
I
a
love
week.
your tips. They are so good. Thank you,
Oh,
MJ.
And you had,
Yeah.
I'll pay you later.
22 views, 22
Right.
views already.
And I've already had an email about where do I find it? So it really does, it should be on our website, because she went on the website and she. Okay, budget, really quick. So I need to submit our budget. And our last budget, we had, I'm just gonna tell you right now what I'm proposing for next year, and we don't know exactly what we're doing, so this is kind of a safety net budget. So this year we had $1,000 for postcards, and those postcard mailings we used for the fair. I want to budget another $1,000 next year, because we will want to make some kind of an announcement, whether it's a little series of events or whatever we do. It might be a survey, whatever. So I budgeted $1,000. I have, this year I budgeted $3,000 for the demo house. And
For the what?
the demo house. that
Oh,
we-
okay.
And she actually used no money at all. She paid for it herself. But I want to budget that same $3,000, and I have it listed. If we wanted to build, for example, a landscaping model, which we talked to the fire district about, and we would desperately like to have it if we're done with it. Possibly a do-it-yourself model, because we've talked about maybe having small events where we teach people how to actually install vents, or some kind of hands-on. We could use it to for handouts if we decide to make some kind of handout. But I think we should have some budget for next year for when we discuss in the next few months what we want to do. And then last, I'm budgeting, so this year I budgeted $1,000 for refreshments, printing, the banners at the Wildfire event. And I'm gonna budget the same $1,000 in case we do want to do some kind of event. So it's the same $5,000 budget. Okay, do I have a motion to approve this budget? Second. Vote. Yeah, okay, unanimous vote. Okay, moving on. Okay, is there any discussion from the attendees on the budget? Okay, conservation update. Nona did email me, and just to let you know, they met, the conservation committee met with the fire district about ordinance 2303 and 2304. They didn't get a copy of the actual draft. They were told that copies of the draft are not given until it goes to legal. And they formed a subcommittee to review that draft. So moving on to home hardening and vegetation management update. So before you give your update, yes. I had a thought about that. I thought that you can have, we could have someone other than Nona from our committee join another subcommittee in another committee, right? I don't think so. I was wondering, is there any way that someone from our committee can talk to their, the conservation subcommittee on these ordinances? Or is that a Brown Act violation? So conservation has formed, okay, let me ask that in a second. MJ, I would like you and you, we have 3 ordinances coming in. Fire district at the meeting the other night introduced in their packet, which by the way went online I think 2 days before the meeting. They introduced a new ordinance, which is a fire code ordinance. It is 13-2023. And I have to tell you, I read it before the meeting and I wasn't particularly concerned. And then Mayor Elves attended the meeting and he was quite concerned about this ordinance because of the timing. He didn't feel we had enough time to respond. And it has occurred to me we have 3 ordinances now. And when I talked to at least 100 people at the fair, and only 2 of them knew about the new draft ordinances on the vegetation and defensible space. And I would like your subcommittee, if you're prepared to do it, to present next month. I don't know if you can present on all of these. You're going to have to choose how you slice and dice this. And I don't know what ordinance, because at the last meeting, they delayed the reading of the fire code ordinance because of what Jeff said. So I don't think they're going to read that ordinance in May, but they might read one of these new draft vegetation ordinances. But would you guys be willing to at least present to our committee next month on ordinances or some subset of them and boil it down so we can all make sure we understand it, tell us what residents might be particularly concerned about, suggest how we're going to educate people, and suggest, is there something that this committee, should voice concern about, or because that is your specialty and Dee's specialty. Yeah, no, we'd be glad to do that. On that same topic, since our subcommittee is going to be looking into these ordinances and we have conservation looking into these ordinances, is there some way for them to meet together? It's not a Brown Act violation because there's 2 separate committees. From who? From yeah, and Jeff is far smarter than I am, so I would never disagree with anything Jeff said. But if they can't work on that fire code, then they might present. I mean, we'll have a month to respond, but it would be nice to be prepared. Let us assume that it will come quicker. And then, so are you going to work with Dee on that? Because if so, you can't talk to me, or if you end up not working with her on the vegetation, we can talk about that. You have to kind of decide who your Brown Act buddy is going to be and how you want to work this. So let me know. Maybe I should ask Nona if she could be my Brown Act buddy, and then I could go to her subcommittee meeting. Yes, I agree. Yeah, Okay. and then just present, and then we're going to have a full agenda next month, but I think this is pretty important. So I think it's more important than the communication. So I'll put you high up on the agenda, like right after the fire district, and that way Don can, if somebody does attend from the fire district next month, he can stay for your presentation. Okay. Okay. Is there does anyone on the committee have anything else to say? Anyone in the audience have anything to say? Okay, I just want to move on to Finance and Insurance Subcommittee. I just wanted to point out that yet another person came up to me at the fair and mentioned doing an insurance survey. This is a topic that keeps coming up. I did present something to Jeremy
over a year ago with a prototype. And there's just a lot of privacy concerns. I just don't see that this is something that our committee can do. I just think it's something that staff would have to do, or we'd have to be directed on.
But we could certainly give them recommendations.
So that is something we should be thinking about. Also,
You're saying we should be thinking about doing an
well,
insurance
just
survey?
insurance. It just, I mean, is there a survey we can do? Is there something we can do to start to get a handle? I had quite a few people come up and say their insurance had been canceled this month. Oh, this month. One person said 5 people on their street had been canceled.
I think it would be nice if there was, when you try to get a hold of what's going on with the insurance right now, the discounts, the requirements, the inspections, et cetera, wouldn't it be nice if there was one piece of paper that had a simple, understandable summary and where to look for more information? Not that I'm volunteering, but I might.
You
be.
know, they have handouts at the fair, CBI. Did you get any
Yeah,
of
and
those?
then that thing that the Woodside Fire District sent out about 2 days before the fair.
Yeah.
I haven't even finished reading it all yet. It's, what I'd like to do is spend some time getting a lot more information and see if it's possible to put something together that's simple and informative. And you're right, people are gonna be concerned about privacy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we have to keep it updated.
yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's the problem. Once you start something like that, it becomes outdated in a matter of days.
Or, you mean an ongoing survey?
No, I'm not, a survey is one option, or just some kind of information that we can give to people, because people are asking, I got canceled.
Yeah, I
Where
heard a
can
lot
I
of that
go?
at the fair, too.
I got a lot of, they really wanted to know, what kind of discounts do you think I can get? I don't know how many people I sent to the Firewise table.
Mhm.
They wanted to know, what are they gonna look at? What are they gonna look at, the insurance companies, with this new regulation, and how is these fire scores going to be created? And even the person from the California Department of Insurance didn't know whether the fire scores were going to be consistent across all of the insurance companies. So, and, you know, people are getting canceled, and they're concerned, and they want to know what they can do. And of course, I say, space, harden your home, Firewise, and that was the privacy was the survey issue. This idea of a survey has just kept coming up. It was actually one of the first things that I was handed when I joined this committee. Was they asked me to find a way to create an Excel sheet and somehow document everyone that's been canceled, or all of the premiums, how they've changed. And so I thought, well, that. So I said, well, we could maybe use Google Forms, and people could voluntarily, you know, and anonymously give us information, and at least we could generate some kind of graphs over the course of a couple of years, and we could see what streets were being affected and how much the premiums were being affected. And Jeremy said that they had tried surveys in the past, they weren't affected, or they weren't effective. He had privacy concerns about Google Forms. And, you know, to some degree, he's correct, because even though we weren't going to capture the email, residents have had problems even with that little algorithm that Craig Hughes created for seeing who was on Zoom, remember? You know, that it was capturing some kind of information. So you really don't know if Google Forms is capturing people's information. I'm programming for years, and I was never an application programmer. So you really would need to have a professional agency somehow create some kind of survey, or yeah.
This would
Oh, gosh, if I had that survey right now, boy, could I make a pitch, go into a neighborhood and say, wow, you better become firewise, you got big problems. Why don't we do a project right now? Let's get some contractors in and you need to do some defensive space and become firewise and install ember resistant vents and tell your insurance company and send me receipts because we need, we have a problem. No, you'd be surprised. People do not think that they are having a problem now. Oh, no. I've had people look at me and say, I have fire insurance. I'm fine. Fire comes, I'll leave. I'm okay. Yeah. Well, that's why we're here. So anyways, and then said that we probably should get together this month and start talking about the fire mitigation report and just think about a draft of us and throw it at the committee, which probably we won't have time now next month, but so many things have changed. So, yeah.
I am still catching up, you realize.
Oh, so many things have changed. So that is, we will begin now working now with the theories of.
No, I dumped 500 megabytes of files on Wanda the other day.
Yes, thank you. God, that was amazing.
I'll do the reports and you do insurance.
Stop, Jennifer.
Maybe
Yeah.
you don't want to meet with me on that then.
Yeah, of course I'll meet
You'll-
with you
you'll-
anytime.
You'll do insurance.
Wanda has a hard stop, so.
Okay, yes, we're done. Okay, so, any comments about what we've just discussed on the finance and insurance updates from the audience? Okay, no staff updates. Quorum check, I think we're all gonna be here
That's on my calendar.
at 4 o'clock on
You bet.
May 17th. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So move.
Second, vote, yep. Wanda raises his hand. Yep, Wanda raises his hand.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Sure, thank you. Can't believe you guys got me flowers.
Jennifer, I'm gonna run. Okay.
I don't know how you can participate. I love those things like these. What did he do? Oh, he did talk about it. Stood here and talked about it. I have not watched, did you turn off the recording? I did. I have watched, I have not watched that one. I watched the insurance presentation. Amazing. I'm almost done with the emergency. Amazing.